that till this one, and we still have few other sessions till Saturday. So I want to say again, thank you to everybody for being with us since we started on Monday, isn't it? So thank you so much for being with us. So this session, I do encourage interactive session. So again, feel free to add your comments and your contributions. And if you would like to speak, if you raise your hand, and we'll be able to unmute you. All right. So tonight, post-separation abuse. Before I go into that, a lot of people underestimate the possibility of abuse going on even after separation. So I've got people who believe that, yes, once my divorce is true, or once the divorce is final, or once I'm separated from the abuser, the abuse ends. But the reality is it doesn't end there. There is a great risk to life. In fact, greater risk to life at the point of escape, right? Most of the time, domestic homicides happen post-separation. A greater percentage of domestic homicide, including the abuser, the children involved, even pets and the victim as well, right? So they happen post-separation abuse. So there is still risk of being abused even when that relationship, you're no longer in that relationship. And it doesn't even matter whether you're officially divorced or not. And we're going to look at some of those realities, I'll call them realities, right? What that looks like post-separation. So I've created this post-separation abuse wheel. Can we all see the screen? Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Fantastic. So I've created this wheel to capture the key elements of the realities of the abuse that could happen post-separation. So now looking at this, it's possible that most of the time people experience all of them. In fact, you could have all of them going on after the other. Okay, you could have them, you could experience them consistently on a daily basis, by the hour, over the years, months, weeks. So there's no time limit or duration to how you can experience this. And it gets particularly worse when children are involved. Let's think about it. If you don't have children with the abuser, it's a question of I've escaped, right? There won't be any reason for custody battle because there are no children, you know, to sort out the contact arrangement and all that. There will still be some other forms of abuse, but you will not experience the ones that do not relate to children, particularly with parenting, the family court, and custody battles, and child support. That will not be involved, okay? So we'll take this one by one, but it's not necessarily in any particular order, okay? Some things just come standard. So anybody could experience any one of this at any point in time. Can you see the cursor? Is the cursor visible? So it's a wheel for a reason, because abuse happens in cycles, right? Abuse always happens in cycles. So, but the first common thing is smear campaign, all right? Smear campaign is basically intentional, malicious, false allegations to discredit the victim. It is deliberate, it is intentional, and they are usually false allegations. So for instance, for a woman, the abuser will go and say things like, okay, I need to also acknowledge the fact that we do recognize the fact that a lot of men experience domestic abuse too, but we are very much aware as well of patriarchal privilege, and we understand a lot more women are victims and a lot more men are perpetrators. Of course, we're not dismissing the reality that men experience abuse too. So for the sake of, I think it's fair to say, ease of conversation, I'll focus on abuse from men to women, right? So this is where the abuser will intentionally say things like, this is the way I put it, okay? Every woman that has escaped domestic violence is often accused of committing adultery, even if you're the pastor or the deacon, because it's like an unheard thing for a woman to commit adultery. So they would make such false allegations that will put you in the very bad light. Anything to discredit you, to claim that, oh, they found out that they would accuse you of committing adultery, and even backing that up in a convincing way with possible evidence. You could be accused of sleeping with the milkman, with your mailman, with your pastor, any male figure present in your life. You would likely be accused of having intimate relationship with a person, right? Unfortunately, in some cases, this might be the issue, but it's still no justification to use that as a form of smear campaign, right? So the abuser makes intentional false allegations. This could also happen with things. They could make allegations about money, like, yes, you stole their money and that is why you've left. All of these are rage fields. I have another picture I'm going to show you that would explain what the rage looks like, and the transition from the person you met, the person you are in the relationship with, and what it looks like even after you've left them. All right? Because domestic abuse certainly starts with kindness, not violence, right? And of course, it's only a matter of time before things start unfolding, the mask begin to fall off. And it could take a period of time before a lot of people even actually realize that, oh, they're being abused, because it is a repeated pattern of intentional abusive behavior that the abuser inflicts on the other person. All right? So that's with smear campaign. Does anybody want to give examples or to share any experience of their smear campaign? If you're comfortable to do so, bear in mind that this is streaming live on Facebook as well. Please only speak if you're comfortable to do so.
I'll speak.
Thank you.
The first thing my now ex did was to insinuate a relationship with someone else. And, you know, very often from what I speak to professional women, it is so easy to suggest that a woman has been involved with a colleague, a business associate, um, even though the facts were, in my case, that I met a certain business associate years into the divorce. Everybody else that was not party to this knowledge was told that I had an affair. So this does happen all the time.
That's right.
And unfortunately, they seem to be able to get away with it, because even if you go to court and you mention it, you know, you get a protection order. It's a piece of paper. It's not going to protect you when there's something really seriously going wrong. So yes, I can attest to smear campaigns. As a matter of fact, I can almost attest to everything on this wheel. Thank you.
So I had to put the wheel together, you know, my previous training sessions as well, because, you know, with interaction with clients, I've had my own share of narcissistic encounter. I call narcissistic abuse experience an encounter because it's no ordinary experience. It's not something you could explain to people who have not walked this journey and it makes sense to them. It is so unique that even yourself, you would have to be like, wow. So it's possible a human being can look this well while they are behaving, while they are displaying this very evil, demonic, malicious behavioral pattern. It's no ordinary experience. It is an encounter. I have to say, of course, we also have to bear in mind that not all abusers are narcissistic, right? There's some abusers that are unfortunate victims of what I call generational error or parental errors. Some of them are only behaving in what they've seen, or the way they've been brought up. And with minimal intervention, they are intentional and they really do change. Having said that, those that have crossed over into those personality disorder spectrum, it's like a journey of no return for them. There is no subtle intervention that could resolve such issues. So being in that kind of relationship is basically life-threatening. And you can't even explain it because most of the time they don't necessarily come with physical evidence, right? So in so many subtle ways, some of the things you would have experienced during the relationship would escalate post-separation. So the smear campaign is, you can't escape domestic abuse and not experience the smear campaign. However, you don't have to explain yourself to people. You don't feel the need. That's the way to manage the smear campaign. Don't feel the need to explain yourself to people. Don't feel the need to exonerate yourself, because what the abuser wants to do is to create confusion for you. It is all blackmail. It is from their own rage, because abusers never believe that their victims will leave one day. The victims are like they're trapped cage. They sort of have this sense of assurance that they've got you for life and you're not going anywhere. And that is why, that's one of the key reasons post-separation abuse happens. Because in the normal situation, if both parties come to mutual agreement that, okay, you know what, this relationship isn't working, let's go our separate ways and, you know, kiss, hug, make up, how nice. But that's not the reality in most cases, particularly when you're dealing with people on the personality disorder spectrum, whether they are diagnosed or not. Most of them are undiagnosed, right? So I'll move quickly to honor-based abuse. What does that mean? Let me bring this back to African communities. I think it's fair to say African communities and Asian communities in particular. And that's because family relationships in these communities, you're not, when you're married to someone or you're in an intimate relationship with someone in such communities, it's not just about the person. You're married to the entire generation and even the generations of the past. You're married to a whole community of people. So it's not just about the person. Excuse me. So when you escape domestic abuse, you will experience honor-based abuse because as a woman, it puts you at a disadvantage. People claim cultural values or traditional beliefs. You know, we know by standard of faulted orientation, there is the misconception that it is a woman's responsibility to keep the home together so the men can do whatever it is they like. If the marriage doesn't work, the society will look at the woman like, what could she have done wrong? If maybe she wasn't praying enough, maybe she wasn't submissive enough, maybe she was, you know, competing with the man. So it's always the woman's fault. So most of the time, the man gets away with this and the woman is usually shamed. So this is where the honor-based abuse comes from, because for some reason, people expect that as a woman, you should be able to pull up a one, perform a miracle, endure the abuse, because that's what you're expected to do. You're supposed to submit regardless. Just, you know, do whatever your husband asks of you. Don't argue with your husband. Please your husband. Serve your in-laws. It's usually about do this, wear certain clothes, cook in time, you know, look sexy, appear nice, praise him, worship him, serve him, kiss the ground that walks on, right? And these are the false responsibilities placed on a lot of women. And it's because of this conditioning that a lot of women experience abuse. It's also because of this conditioning that a lot of men are abusers, right? Well, I'll talk a little more about that in the next slide. Right, so you've got family and friends turning against the woman, expecting she should have done something. You could have stayed for the sake of the children. You know, you shouldn't leave regardless. You should be able to pray the abuse away. Maybe you're not patient enough. most women are asked when they are separated, what did you do? What did you do to provoke him? What did you do? Oh, he's a very nice and gentle person. You must have done something wrong. Oh, you're not patient enough, right? So you've got a whole community. Let me use an example of the church setting, right? A couple, the woman separated from the husband, both they both have positions in the church. Of course, the woman had to leave the church, but the man got a promotion. A lot of people showed more compassion towards the man and a lot of judgment towards the woman. And it was so bad that there are some people that when they see her coming to church, they might not even speak to her, or they might intentionally drag their children away from her. And then, but when they see the husband, they're going all over him to, oh, we're sorry, let's know if you need any help or anything we can do for you. So these are some of the realities people face to deal with honor-based abuse. And of course, you might have familiar, let me call familiar friends or acquaintances, people who would expect that, oh, we just love you as a couple, we love seeing both of you together. You should have been able to do something. You didn't have to wait. And if these are people that are close to you, that maybe they've witnessed some of the feel good times you had, or something that looks like the good times, they will use that against you. Oh, I remember the time you went on holiday, you tried, they still minimize your abuse. Oh, it doesn't matter. All men do that. You should have been more patient. And they can start comparing their situations and while they are staying and trying to condemn you for leaving. So that is honor-based abuse as well. You could have family putting a lot of pressure on you, left, right, and center. So you've got family, you've got community, you've got your friends, you might have your colleagues at work. Everybody basically ganging up against you because you've separated from this abusive person. But you know what? Thank God for programs like this, right? There is a lot more awareness. There is a lot more information out there. Things are changing. We all owe it to ourselves, to continue to use our voices, share our experiences, share the impact, because all of this, of course, impacts the person in many ways. And you can only imagine where children are involved, what that looks like, right? So again, on honor-based abuse, does anybody want to share? Anybody? If you would like to share your experience, again, bear in mind, it's being streamed live on Facebook.
I can, will I say, have had experience, this is Uju speaking, with this honor-based abuse, particularly with the abuser's family, where you find, even if you got on very well with them before, and even if they are aware that, their sibling or family member has issues, when you come around to say, you know what, I've had enough, wow, the flip is amazing.
Absolutely.
They will completely turn against you, blame you for the issues, and excuse everything their sibling or family member has done. It's almost like you find that you are a dove in a den of vipers.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because everybody, even those who know the situation, will completely turn against you. And I have theories on why they do that, but it's a very, very the betrayal of that is very, very deep.
Thank you for sharing that. And those are some of the realities. It is the betrayal, the disappointment. Well, the beauty of this is it's also a stage that you actually realize people who are genuinely for you and people who are only for you because of your marital status or because of the relationship you were in. They're only interested in your being Mrs. They don't care about you. They don't care about what you've gone through. They don't care about your emotions. So it's a very good stage also that people will be revealed to you who they are, right? So you have the opportunity to find out who is really for you and who has been against you, right? Like we just said, people you've supported over the years, people you've done no wrong, people who are aware. Some of them might have been involved in trying to resolve some of the issues. But yes, most of the time, women are at a major disadvantage when it comes to situations like this. You know, like I mentioned earlier, because you're expected to be able to pull out a miracle wand and, you know, snap your finger or do something to change the situation around, or to continue to endure what I call unrepentant abuse. Because it gets to that stage, nobody goes into a relationship with the intention of, oh, I'm going to be married, or I'm going to be in this relationship for 2 years, and after 2 years, I'm just going to leave. Maybe some people do some calculated, let me call it exploitation like that, but in intimate relationship where you've gone in with good intentions, you know, you're looking forward to your happily ever after with this person. Of course, you are there fully committed, you know, bent over backwards, overlooked a lot of things, endured things you wouldn't normally endure, you know, and then to have all of this happen. So it's a very good stage. And my experience and what a lot of my clients have experienced at this stage is help will come from places you least expect, right? Help will come from places you least expect. Either way, you will never be alone. So we have the ICFDP team here. If you're going through any of these things being discussed, please send us an email, send us a DM directly on Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at ICFDP 2020, and on Facebook it's ICFDP. So you can send us messages directly on Facebook, or it's what's our email address? Can you help with that, please?
Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm on mute. It's Domestic Peace International at gmail.com. I will put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Right. So please just realize that you are not alone. We're having this conversation. Some of us have experienced this journey. Like I said, I've had my own share of encounter, all right, on this journey. So this is not just academic knowledge. It's also coming from a place of personal experience and experiences of some of my clients and many other people I've not met. So these are lived realities, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate with that. So you can imagine the pressure at that time. So it is a place, how can you protect yourself, or how can you limit the impact on you in this, if this is happening to you? No, not if, because it will happen, right? There's something I called, you know, with most African families, and I think, like I said, Asian families as well, when separation happens, there's something they try to do, which I call family, it's supposed to be family intervention. You know, you have the families coming together, trying to help you resolve what they minimize as conflict. Domestic violence is not conflict. It's not something you can sit down and discuss around the table. A lot of things would have happened for anybody to be able to resolve the issue within, no matter how long the conversation is going to go on for. So these family intervention meetings, I call them witchcraft meetings. And I would explain why I call them witchcraft meetings, because most of the time, the women are accused. They are forced to accept a lot of the things they've been falsely accused of. They are basically humiliated, their voices and choices taken away from them. So you are usually left in a worse situation than you were before you attended that meeting. I call them witchcraft meeting. It's not going to help you avoid such interventions. When you've made up your mind, you've gotten to the stage of enough is enough, you've been courageous and bold enough to separate from this person, be mindful of who you listen to. It's a very good time as to identify who are the most important people in your life. Who are the people that you need to listen to now? Even some of the most important people in your life, it might be a situation that you might have to cut some people off. just to get your sanity, because you've gone through a lot. And then you have all of these people who, even if they understand what you've gone through, some of them, because of course, you know, as we mentioned, they expect you to perform a miracle, limit contact, set clear boundaries with these people. Yes, you'll feel guilty to an extent, but you need to be mindful that you have to be able to fight for yourself. You need to be able to protect yourself, because whatever relationship you're going to have, you need your sanity. You need to be alive and well to be able to function properly, isn't it? So it might be a time for most people. The best intervention may not necessarily come from family, friends, church community, or the people you already know. So it could come from strangers. So be open to accept people that are willing to support you. Don't feel the need to isolate yourself. It could be a very dangerously isolating stage for a lot of people, because all the people you've trusted, you've supported, you've lived with, it is a very dangerous stage of betrayal. So be conscious of it. Of course, sharing this is not to scare you, okay? It's to make you aware. For some of you that have gone through it, some of you that might be going through it, and some of you that are about to step out, so that when these things are happening, it's about ticking the box and not to worry about it, because what you know will not harm you, right? You are already aware, you are equipped, you are informed. It's a question of, all right, I've heard this, this is happening. It will hit you, but it will not keep you down, okay? So be aware of that. I would move on to parental alienation or counter-parenting, right? So parental alienation happens when one parent intentionally turns a child against another parent. In a situation where, let's say, a child has been living with a post-separation, of course, the children would live with one parent. There is a primary resident, right? So if it's a situation that when they visit the other parent, the children could be held hostage, basically. The other parent might not return the children. The children might be fed with a lot of lies, right? So it's intentional brainwashing children against the other parent. If you're dealing with narcissistic abusers or abusers on the personality disorder spectrum, this will definitely happen without doubt, right? Especially where children are involved, definitely, right? So it is about the abuser, because they are agents of destruction, agents of chaos. Narcissists in particular thrive where there is confusion, all right? Alienation could happen between siblings as well. This is where they do the scapegoating and the golden child, you know, favoring one child over the other or comparing the children. And we know by rule of law, you don't compare your children with anybody, not even with themselves, not even, you know, you don't compare your children, because it's damaging to children's psychological development, right? So these are things the abusers would intentionally do. Everything and anything that will make the children hate you. That is that is the mission, right? And some of them do this in a way that it could be they overspend for the children, trying to create an impression, especially when you're dealing with overt narcissists. The overt narcissists are the impressionist type of narcissist. They are the ones that like to show off. They're usually all over the place. You know, they're the ones that are mostly physically aggressive. They're the ones that their actions might be more visible than the covert narcissist. So the overt narcissist would likely overspend on the children, and it is not because they care about the children, all right? It's not because they're interested in the children. It's because they're trying to buy the children's interest or affection. You know, imagine situations where you have, let's say, for instance, you have a 10-year-old child, and your daughter has asked for a mobile phone, and you've told your daughter, oh, I have this this old Samsung phone I'm using, you can use that for now, and when you're older, I will get you another phone. Okay. And the child feels, oh, but my friends are using iPhone, I want an iPhone. And you go, oh, you're still young, don't worry, when you're old enough, I'll get you a phone. Now, this is where the overt narcissist, I call them the Santa Claus parents, right? They will come in, and if they go for a visit, before you know what's going on, your child comes back with like the latest iPhone model. And you're like, what's going on here? And yes, that bought that for me. So that is a very subtle way, right, that parental alienation happens. It is parental alienation because it is intentionally turning the children against you, right? Trying to play, or not trying, consciously making you be the bad cop while they play the good cop. So the overt narcissists, they are Santa Claus parents, they buy the children's affection. They might take them on holiday, particularly if you're not in a better off financial position as they are, they will make sure that they spoil the children with things they know you will not approve of. Of course, this is not done in the interest of the children. It is about buying the children to turn against you. And tell me, which child wouldn't like to have the best of things, isn't it? So it's a very subtle and effective way, okay, that parental alienation could easily happen. Does anybody have any question? Are there any questions so far or comments? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Just some acknowledgement of what you're saying, and people experiencing and going through the same thing with finding out their what you call it, in-laws have turned against them, and yeah, just a lot of agreement with everything that you're saying so far. It rings very, very true to many people's experience.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Keep the comments coming, please. It's exciting, isn't it? It's good there is awareness.
I would just like to say something. You know, we tend to stereotype when it comes to gender-based violence, and especially domestic abuse. And I must just tell you, it's not true. There's no evidence that African men or Chinese men are different from Caucasian men. Caucasian men can get up to horrific nonsense, and so can their families. So I'm just very careful to stereotype, and I have to speak out on this because I see this happen all the time and I lived it.
Right.
So really, for anybody out there, it happens in all social classes, across all races and ethnicities. It is not pertaining to one group.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Francesca. You're absolutely right. Domestic violence is not limited to first gender. It's not limited to culture, tradition, nationality, height, social or level of education whatsoever. So, but having said that, there's some peculiar things that apply to certain communities that are not generalized. So for instance, with being married to the entire families, it happens in a lot of cultures, but it doesn't really apply to all cultures, because some families, when they hear about separation, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's fine. But in certain traditional expectation, there is that pressure to try to force the relationship to stay together. So, and that's why I refer to those family interventions. You know, all of a sudden, everybody becomes this relationship expert. You know, when you've been crying out the things, they've witnessed the things happening to you, they keep encouraging you to stay. And when you get to the stage of enough is enough, your life is at risk, you don't want to keep living like that, then everybody, you know, they start turning around against you. And for some reason, people suddenly believe there is a form of miracle they can perform to keep all of you together, right? And that's why I refer to those intervention meetings as witchcraft meetings. Avoid, avoid, avoid. You know what you're walking away from. So keep going forward. Thank you very much for sharing that, Francesca. So with parental alienation, it is about manipulation. It is about brainwashing the children. So what does this look like for the children? It could impact the children in such a way that some of the children become abusive towards the elder parent. You know, it's about giving the children absolute power to do anything they want to do. And believe it or not, this affects even older children, adult children, like in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, right? Children can be captured at any stage. So let's be aware of that. And I can imagine some of us might have experienced situations that you just wonder, why won't these people speak?
Hello.
Stay in the relationship. People are threatened with, they are being threatened to be disowned if they leave the relationship. So all of this form part of post-separation abuse. So with parental alienation, children could become abusive towards the other parent because domestic abuse, of course, it's not just in intimate relationships, right? It's also, it could happen between siblings, it could happen from between parents, it could happen from parent to children, it could happen from children to parent as well. So, and then again, abuse is not only limited to a current relationship, there has to be a form of history as well, a form of intimate history in the relationship for it to be domestic abuse, right? So you've got situations where it's a lot of confusion for the children. Parental alienation is basically psychological abuse of children, where children are being intentionally coerced or controlled to commit a crime. I have situations where some of my clients, their children have experienced abuse by the non-resident parent, and they will be manipulated to go back to school and say to the teacher that the mom did it. And of course, this becomes a safeguarding issue. So it's got into situations that unfortunately some children have been diagnosed with ADHD because it's a lot of conflicting and confusing information when you have one parent that wants what's best for the children and where you have the other parent telling the children different things. It's too much conflicting information to process for children. Children with elder parents struggle with certain hormonal changes. So you can now understand what that impact would look like on the children in this situation. So how do you manage the situation? Again, awareness. You have to be informed, all right? And being informed means when this thing is happening, manage your emotions, because what the abuser wants from you from now till the beginning of time is a reaction from you. Anything to point a finger at you, to put you as the crazy one, that is what they are looking for. And they will do that consistently as long as they breathe. All right? The abuser does not like you. They hate you for leaving them. They want no good for you, and they are willing to, particularly when you're dealing with abusers on this narcissistic spectrum or personality disorder spectrum, they genuinely hate you. You are not friends. They want no good for you. They will turn everything and anyone that likes you, that supports you, that speaks to you, or anyone that does not agree with them, they will make sure they turn people against you. All right. And your children are not excluded. Someone raised their hand, I think.
Yes, she raised her hand. Did you want to ask, Feyi, do you mind? Is that okay to come in quickly?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this presentation. I wanted to ask particularly regarding the parental alienation bit. You mentioned about safeguarding. I'm currently facing the situation that you just mentioned. So how do I know if the child is being coerced to tell the school about things that haven't occurred? Because I've contacted the head of safeguarding at school and he seems to be nonchalant about it. So what do I do?
Right. Thank you for that question, and thank you for sharing that experience as well. How would you know if the child is being coerced is if the child makes a report that you know is not true. If the child makes a report that you know clearly did not happen. So it's going to be, it's a very difficult situation to be with, particularly what I've seen that a lot of schools do is they try not to be involved. They try to neutralize the blame. They try to balance the blame between both parents, right? The situation I mentioned earlier, it became a case that the child made so many false reports that anything he said, it now became a liar, basically. So even when he was speaking the truth, they didn't believe him anymore, right? So what you will have to consistently do is to present your truth, no matter how colorful or convincing the abuser tries to make that a reality. You have to keep presenting your truth. Now, the situation with school particularly is request for a meeting. Rather than send emails back and forth, request for a meeting. I know with the lockdown, you might not have the opportunity to have a one-to-one physical meeting, but request for a direct telephone conversation, because sometimes, you know, the people's mindset at the time of reading the email, they could misinterpret what you're saying. So rather than, you know, sending emails, ask to speak with them, present your truth. Present your truth. You will always have to be the one to encourage your children to be truthful. It's a very difficult situation to be for the children, and it is a difficult situation to be as well for the elder parent as well.
No,
But
sorry, can I repeat? The
Yes.
child has been recruited against me. So I believe the child is making allegations about me because they've been fueled. So in that situation, it's hard because they've been recruited by the perpetrator.
Well, that's what they do. Right. You know what? We might have to have a different conversation outside the meeting to get the full context, right? Because if it depends, again, how much time they spent with the other parent. So that would determine how much influence you would be able to have on them. Because what abusers want, they want competition. Narcissists in particular, they enjoy competition. It is everything and everything to make you look like the bad person. They enjoy competition. And, you know, like I said, they don't care about these children. As long as the child is against you, even if it's something to do with bedtime. Oh, dad says it's okay to stay till 12 o'clock, till 12 midnight. Why are you telling us to go to bed at 8:30? Yes. The children could easily turn against you because they are there to counter whatever it is you've agreed or set up for the children. So it's about creating disruptions. You know, I mentioned it earlier, they are agents of disruption and destruction. They enjoy chaos, they thrive in chaos, and that's what they're there to do, to basically destabilize everything you've set up for the children, right? So, Chi, we can have a conversation outside the session to get more details, and hopefully we'll be able to work out something effective for you.
Sure, thank you so much.
All right. So, and also that alienation, of course, happens when the abusive parent intentionally criticizes the other parent for no reason. Oh, why would she tell you to go clean the dishes? Why would you, you know, not pay for your school trip? So again, it puts children in a very, very difficult situation. And you've got the other covert narcissist who may not even show any form of interest whatsoever in the children, right? They don't care about the children. They will make the children cry. They will tell the children all the lies they believe, because what a lot of abusers do is they create their own version of lies, that those lies, they tell it for so long. They're so convinced by the lies that it becomes their version of truth. And at some stage, they actually genuinely forget what the truth is. But you being on the receiving end, you know what you've gone through. You never forget the truth. So they intentionally sell this version of truth to the children. Oh, but dad said, oh, but mom said. How do you manage such situations? Again, it is challenging, but it is possible. It takes consistent work and conversation with your children, really, because you will always be the only healthy parent in their life, right? And the other thing you could do is to have a network of other positive, supportive, healthy adult figures in their life, so that it's not just you talking to them. You can seek intervention from trusted people, professionals, or trusted family or friends. I use the word trusted as in bold underline with flashing lights, trusted, right? Because you don't want situation that, you know, the things you've shared will go back to the abuser, and they'll be able to counter what you told the children. So your truth would always set you free. You just have to be able to manage your emotions. I know how challenging this can be, but to be very conscious, right, about your emotions, because what the abuser is looking for is a reaction from you to be able to say, yes, I told you she's crazy. So let's be mindful of that. All right. So the next one on the wheel, we'll talk about family court. How interesting. Do you know, of the things I do, the way I support my clients, in a very interesting and maybe strange way, I actually enjoy my family court cases, and I'll tell you why. Because I know I'm not a solicitor by any means. In fact, I think the most exposure I had to studying law was land law units in uni, and and finance law. So I'm not a solicitor, but I do provide family court support for people going through child contact arrangements in the family court, particularly in the UK. So, and that's because I had a share of that experience as well. And I saw how things could have easily gone wrong if I wasn't informed or was not aware of the type of person, you know, that was up against, right? So it really put me, and I also saw the lapses in the system, how the Kafka's officer assigned to your case, your Section 7 report, how you even present your case and even present yourself in front of the judges, or even your choice of words, you know, in front of the judges as well. Because again, these abusers will come into court looking all calm and collected. And a lot of the clients that come to me, what happened to them is when they go to solicitors, this is in no way undermining solicitor support, because there are some of them that I still refer to use a solicitor, particularly when they're overwhelmed and they just can't deal with that going to court anymore, you know. But for most of them, what happens is the solicitors will tell them, oh, you don't want to mention domestic abuse, especially when you have never reported it. And they'll tell you, oh, maybe that was 2 years ago, it happened in the past. But we understand that there is nothing like historical abuse, because this is traumatic experience. It takes time, isn't it? It takes time, because people would have been exposed to this abusive behavior before they even understand what's going on with them. The abuse would have gone on in its cyclical pattern, right? So solicitors would tell them, no, you don't want the judge to look at you like you don't want the person to have access or contact with the children. Don't talk about domestic abuse, just go there and agree. So they basically brainwash them to compromise. And we know when you're dealing with abusers, the moment you start compromising, you're setting yourself up for more abuse, because they keep coming back, right? So with the family court, post-separation abuse, the family court is, and I've seen a lot of information and a lot of demand as well for the family court support process, the child contact arrangement process to be reformed, because the court order becomes a weapon of abuse for the abuser. they use the court order to abuse the healthy parent. So everything, sometimes some of them, the court order could be pick the children at 4 p.m., bring the children back at 8 p.m. They might not show up till 5 p.m. and they might not even say anything. They might not provide any information to let you know they're coming late or they're not showing up at all. They would intentionally just do that. And where they're supposed to bring the children back at 8 p.m., they might bring them back at 10 p.m. or never. All right. So again, this does not put your own parenting capacity in a dangerous position, but of course, imagine also the impact on the children as well, right? So the family court system, yes, a lot of abusers, they make it about the children. Of course, every woman that has escaped domestic abuse with children, you get accused of, oh, she denied me access to see my children. Even when you've made it very clear that, okay, you know what, this relationship is not working, I'm going to leave, or if it's the abuser that leave, just to make sure you have contact with your children. No, it's not enough. The fact that they realize you are no longer under their control, they make it all about the children. And the family court now becomes a legal institution that basically empowers perpetrators. And they also, it becomes like the aiding and abetting legal institution that promotes domestic abuse. So you have cases, applications being made consistently. If there is an application made, the abuser will make a counter application, and cases could go on. Unnecessary hearings could go on. They could challenge Kafka's report. Of course, if it doesn't go their way, they want another hearing. They want Kafka to explain why they did that. Some judges are more firm than the other. You have some judges who will say, no, that's not going to happen. This is what they've seen. Some of them are more informed. So if you're fortunate enough to have an informed judge who understand the pattern, maybe, you know, by experience or of course, by experience or training, right? And they will be able to spot these things. But some people are not so lucky because without doubt, you know, they are professionals. They're there to do their 9 to 5 as well, even though they are bound by their professional obligation, but they make a lot of mistakes. Judges have made decisions that put children's lives at risk. Women and children have been killed because of the court order they got, right? So most of the time, the family court order becomes a weapon of abuse. And with the family court, you get that consistent harassment. Oh, you breached the court order. You breached the court order. And some of them will be sure that like, you know, I mentioned like pick up time 4 p.m. and drop off time 8 p.m. Some of them will make sure that by 4 p.m. to the T, right? If you bring the children back at 4:01, they are back in court. She breached the court order. Yes, I have some clients who have dealt with that, right? And unfortunately, some judges will tolerate that as well, and they keep the case in court going on for longer than necessary. So does anybody have any comment or contribution on that? Family court experience?
Oh, there's a lot of, thank you, Feyi. There's a lot of conversation going on about several things, all
Right.
from the whole conversations you had about the witch, the
Witchcraft meeting.
and some agreements with you that yes, sometimes it can feel quite specific to certain cultures, but at the same time also debate showing that no, actually in many instances it doesn't matter where, these type of things happen across the board all over the world. Then there's some discussion around just the fact that narcissists are pathological liars. How can you tell someone is a narcissist? They open their mouth and it just comes out. An agreement again with what you're saying with regards to the court system and how tricky it can be to navigate that, because in many ways, like you say, they are the court system almost enables and facilitates the
That's right.
narcissists. They,
Yes.
someone said, a professor said, they aid the abusers.
That's right.
In many
Absolutely.
ways. Yeah.
Absolutely. They totally do. And what I've seen with a lot of judges is, thank you so much for checking on that, Uju. What I've seen with a lot of judges, is some of, even with social workers as well, some of them still have this belief of children should have access to both parents, and that is where they get it wrong, right? They're not considering the impact of domestic abuse. It's like, oh, well, there is still that strong reliance on physical evidence. But this is what I'm going to tell you. You don't need to have physical evidence to be able to support your case in court, all right? You don't need to have any physical evidence. The key thing, it comes down to your truth, how you structure it, and being able to stand firm. And that is why I encourage my clients to self-represent. And what that does for them is to be able to basically face the Goliath, all right? Because what the abuser wants to do with all of this is to continue to instill fear in you, is to continue to gain control over you, is to continue to exert their power over you. Everything that they're doing in all of this will is to let you know that, to make you regret ever meeting them, and to make you regret even leaving them, okay? But your truth would always set you free. What we do is, most of the time, I don't read the perpetrator statements because they all contain the same things. They usually accuse their victims of the things they did. They do that all of the time, right? You don't miss it. So what happens, of course, when you're reading, and it comes with a lot of false allegations. You can imagine someone, you're reading the story of what the person did to you. It can be very, very upsetting, isn't it? So what I say to my clients, when you see that brown envelope on your door, do not open it. Okay? Do not open it. What we do is we focus on what you want the judge to see, because the abuser statement becomes a distraction. You don't necessarily have to go there to discount everything they've written that, oh no, that didn't happen. No, you tell your story, focus on your truth. And that is how we structure their statements. And of course, because it is your truth, you will be able to think on your feet, and you will be able to ask intelligent questions right on your feet, But with the abusers, because we know particularly the ones on the personality disorder spectrum, they're not only pathological liars, they are compulsive liars. So that combination, and when they lie, usually they shoot themselves in the foot as well. I have not seen any situation where an abuser, it's just that perjury is not a thing in the family court, but they usually perjure themselves, and they do it effortlessly because the stories just don't add up. And because it's not their truth, yes, they mix things up. But you focus on what you want the judge to see. And of course, depending on identified risk, present a reasonable contact arrangement that will suit you and your children, and not necessarily the abuser. It doesn't matter what the abuser wants. It is not a priority what the abuser wants. You know what is best for yourself and what is best for those children. And that is what you will be presenting to the court. So unless there is a specific thing that is very incriminating that they've included in their statement, we don't deal with it. So we just focus on what you want to see, and that has been very helpful for all of my clients. So I hope that's really helpful for someone as well. All right. So I will move on to financial abuse, but I'm going to bring this back to family court again. So part of the family court process is also, there are elements of financial abuse involved. So it's a question of everything to punish you for leaving them. So they intend to cost you money, because of course solicitors consultation costs money. Having a solicitor represent you in court costs money, right? And of course, you have to pay for the initial consultation, you have to pay a retainer, and then of course, you pay more money depending on how far your case goes, isn't it? So financial abuse is also part of the family court process, because they want to cost you money, to put you in more difficult financial position. So now focusing on financial abuse, it's where the abuser intentionally denies or blocks access to money. I've got clients who are paying back loans and debts they were not aware existed because the abuser had either forged their signature or impersonated them to get loans on their behalf, right? And the financial abuse, of course, they use the children as well. The family court doesn't deal with, in the UK, the family court doesn't deal with child support. So there is a separate agency that deals with child support. So how they do this with the abuser, what they do, most of them, particularly the ones that have the opportunity to manipulate their income, is that some of them would even stop working because they don't want to pay child support. It's about punishing you. You hear things like, yes, she's left, but by the time she suffers with the children, she'll come right back to her senses. That is how a lot of abusers are so entitled. Oh, she'll come back to her senses. When they suffer well enough, she'll know what she's missed and she'll be back with the children. So they do that. They intentionally withdraw support. They might deny, they might put a weight of the family debt on you. They might intentionally stop paying your mortgage payments. At the moment, as far as I'm aware, Lloyds Bank have a financial abuse team that can support you if you're banking with Lloyds Bank. I think later on I will share the contact details of the financial abuse support team. There is also an agency called Economy Abuse Agency or something like that. I'll look out for that link and share that as well. They specialize in economic abuse. Of course, financial abuse is also referred to as economic abuse. So it's all about anything to put you in that financial frustration, basically. So you could have them diverting assets or denying assets, or you imagine where someone has to feel the need, right, to stop working just to be able to, just because they want to avoid paying child support. That's the revelation of, in fact, it's something worth saying congratulations, in the sense that thank God you walked away from this sort of person. Of course, it's about punishing you and punishing the children. Abusers don't care about the children. They make it about the children, but they don't care about the children. So anything to frustrate you, yes, they would intentionally do that as well. So you could have situations where they might have accumulated bills, unpaid bills as well. Some of them will have that bill. At the time the bill is due, for a lot of utility companies, they will not speak to someone that is not the listed, the registered owner, the listed bill payer, right? And if the bill keeps piling up, I have people who have been in this situation that utility bills will not have been paid. Maybe after about, when it's accumulated to like thousands, then they now put the target's name on it. Now you deal with it, right? And of course, they now start ringing you. So you are facing the harassment and you'll be the one they keep coming after to settle that the bill. So at the moment, it's a burden a lot of people carry. Okay, so what can you do? Empower yourself every legal possible way you can financially. Empower yourself financially. All right, again, all of this is not to scare us. I'm happy that a lot of people can relate with the things being shared. All right, awareness is about preparing you so that you are not surprised, because what happens to a lot of people, in fact, it's something that that compounds the trauma people have gone through, is trying to understand, but why is it doing that? But why is this happening? People start questioning themselves and wondering, why is this happening to me? What is wrong with me? Have I done something wrong? Some people even believe maybe it's the sins of their forefathers they're paying for. No, it's nothing like that. You're only dealing with an unrepentant abuser, and they are there to get you. But information and awareness helps you to understand not only what you're going through, but would also take away the burden of questioning yourself, or thinking or feeling the need to be isolated. It's not a unique problem. The individual circumstances could be unique, but it is not a unique problem. These things are very common across the globe. They happen everywhere. Okay, so that's with financial abuse. And I will move on quickly to stalking, right? So you have situations where the abuser could show up unannounced. You've left the relationship, it doesn't matter how long. They might just come back and show up when you didn't expect them, or they might even go to your family members' residence. They might show up for parties. They might show up at your workplace. They might show up at your gym, the places they know you go to. Now, how can you protect yourself? Of course, report it, all right? And the thing is, if it's worth changing some of these places, by all means, do change your usual route, okay? If you can change your gym, go to a different gym, things like that. Do what you can do, within your capacity, without necessarily taking away your freedom, right? But again, being aware of what the abuser could do. Never underestimate the risk an abuser poses to you. They are not your friend. They hate you permanently for leaving them. How dare you leave? So they are on a lifetime mission to punish you for not condoning the abuse for as long as they expect to. And bearing in mind that it doesn't matter who ended the relationship, the consequences are pretty much the same. Okay? So whether you ended it or they ended it, we know most of the time abusers don't end the relationship. They threaten to leave, but they don't usually leave. Some of them do, but it's not very common. So most of the time, they want to punish you for doing that. So they could stalk you, and they could also use other people to stalk you. So which means they might hire private investigators to stalk you. They might use close friends or family members again to stalk you. So I'll move on quickly to harassment. So harassment, I learned something recently that I never thought or heard of before at the training a few weeks ago about harassment, that the perpetrator sent a lot of mail orders, catalogs, magazines, endlessly to the victim. So is someone saying something? Okay, yes, mail order as a form of harassment. So it is those intentional, the things they do to intentionally cause vexation. They want to irritate you. Again, it's about looking for a reaction from you, so they'll be able to say, yes, I told you, she's the crazy one, everybody look at her. They're not doing these things because they care or they're interested. It's everything they would do to maintain that center of control. We know that in the center of domestic abuse, there is power and control. So they will do all of these things to try and be relevant in your life in the most unpleasant way possible. Okay, so you could receive emails at work. They could send your employers mails. They could intentionally leave negative comments about you or negative reviews. They could release pictures or photos, all sorts of manners of things that they can do to irritate you. So in a nutshell, or maybe not so nutshell, so these are the key elements of post-separation abuse. And of course, everybody would experience them in different ways, with the impact too in different ways, again, depending on the individual circumstances, whether children are involved or not. In all of this, you need your support system. Please don't feel the need to isolate yourself. I keep going back to that because this is what this does to a lot of people, because they feel helpless. It's like the truth they've known, the people they've loved, Suddenly people have turned against you. You don't even know who to trust. You don't know who will be feeding back to you, to the ex. You know, you're being careful. So there is the very easy tendency to become isolated. Please know that it could feel like the world is against you. Bear in mind, it's only one person trying to turn the people around you against you. The world is not against you. And without doubt, at ICFDP, we are here for you, all right? We're not against you. We want to encourage you to reach out to us, send us the emails, and we'll be able to work out how we can support you. Don't feel isolated. That is what the abuser wants you to do, all right? Don't feel the need to isolate yourself. In every way possible, report it where you could seek legal injunction. I think that's the next one. Yes, how can you protect yourself? Of course, when people tell you their stories, believe them. All right, believe them, because that's one of the major things that that escalates the trauma for a lot of victims as well, is when people tell them, oh no, I know him, or he's a very gentle person. Or you have people that say, oh no, we went to secondary school together, he's a very nice man. You know, I'm going to show you a picture. Aha, can we all see this picture?
Yes.
So again, I created this one after several conversations with, you know, with clients, and I said to them, if you have people tormenting you, basically, just send them the image and stop explaining yourself to people that don't understand your journey. All right. So what happens to a lot of people, of course, I don't think anybody would knowingly, fully well, right, go further into a committed relationship with someone that has intentionally shown physical abuse. You know, you meet them the first day, they slap you across the face and you're like, oh, I've met the man of my dreams. Let's walk down the aisle. Though it doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way, right? Abuse often starts with kindness, okay? And it's only when they are sure they've secured your trust and your interest in that relationship, that is when the masks start falling off. And abusers don't like people to know who they are. They don't like to challenge them. So of course, when you meet them, all right, looking cool, attractive, charming, calm, right? They basically worship the grounds you walk on, and you get into this relationship, you're beginning to look around and you're wondering, what happened to the person you dated and maybe eventually married? This wasn't the person that asked you out. So what's going on here? So that keeps a lot of people longer than they should endure the relationship for, because it's that need to reconcile from that last green up to the first person they met. You know, it keeps people become hopeful. They start rationalizing things, or maybe it's something they've done. People blame themselves a lot of times, you know, maybe it's just going through something. They start rationalizing and trying to understand why the person has suddenly changed. However, see, that third one has been existing even when they appeared to you like an angel, all right? So these people already had their issues before they met you. So it's the security of that relationship that makes them show their true color. So I brought this up because I mentioned the word believe survivors, because what a lot of people are stuck with is that nice, kind, sometimes gentle, loving, you know, cool-headed, cheerful person that everybody else sees on the outside, isn't it? And you hear, oh, beautiful couple, we love them together. But behind closed doors, yes, it's only the people that live with them that see the other two parts, right? And you have people questioning you. What did you do? Well, maybe you provoked the person. They're very gentle. And because abusers, whether they are narcissistic or not, they are very, very manipulative, okay? They know how to play the victim. All right, and this is where patriarchal privilege comes to play, because the responsibility of the success of intimate relationship in particular is placed on the woman. So a lot of men with no responsibility to participate positively in that relationship. Let me say abusive men, not a lot of men, abusive men. I need to rephrase that. Abusive men, they believe that, yes, it is your responsibility. They are not often questioned. It's not a lot of time, unless the person has gone to a state, has experienced maybe situations that so many people identify it. They've tried to give their support, they've offered different intervention, and the abuser refuses. The abuser refuses because with narcissists in particular, they live in denial. So them accepting any form of intervention is them accepting their fault, and that's not going to happen. So that's why it's easy for them to flip that right back at you. Okay. And because they are agents of deception, well, you could have a situation where the abuser maybe pays school fees or makes huge donations to some charitable organization while they refuse to provide financial support for their own family. So you have people questioning you. How can you say that? How does he not provide for the children? It doesn't stop them from giving false reports, right? And they will say things like, oh yes, I'm providing the money, she's lying. Again, bearing in mind that all the things they do is anything that discredits you, and to also intentionally maintain that the center, the power and control. All right. So when you meet them, yes, they're cool. When the masks start falling off and you realize something is going on, that's the middle part you experience right there. And when you leave, oh yes, you get the full-blown, you get the full-blown rage and reaction. Okay, so these are the realities of post-separation abuse, but all hope is not lost. There is help available. Okay. I've written down some things here. How can you protect yourself and your loved ones? Don't be an enabler, because I know, of course, everybody, one way or the other, you know, there's someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone. When if someone reaches out to you, believe them. Okay, don't be an enabler or minimize what their experience is, even if it doesn't make sense. It's about validating their experience, not judging them, all right, and not to promote quick fixes, because that is what a lot of people do. The focus, particularly with religious organizations or religious communities, it's about, oh, save the marriage, you know, let's save the marriage. It's really about the individuals. And we know what the reality is. Can a marriage exist without the two people involved? It's absolutely impossible, isn't it? So don't promote quick fixes. At every time possible, reported stalking, harassment, you know, where you find out that your signature has been forged, report it, report it, report it, report it. It's good to report it, because at least that gives you something. Again, I mentioned it earlier that just because you don't have any physical report doesn't make your account of events credible. Yes, the report could make it better, but it doesn't necessarily put you in a bad situation or in a worse situation because you don't have any physical evidence to provide, because abusers are liars and they will sabotage. But your truth is really, really important. Focus on your truth and what you want to present, rather than focusing on debunking the abuser's lies. All right, present your truth, and then you watch the abuser self-sabotage. It's something they do consistently. And again, set and maintain clear and healthy boundaries. Let your yes be your yes. Let your no be your no. Again, don't feel the need to explain yourself to everybody. It is exhausting. You've gone through a lot. You need time for yourself to even be able to recover from the reality, or let me say the shock of what you've experienced, and even having the courage to come out of this situation, especially even where children are involved. Okay? To be aware of that as well. Don't feel the need to explain yourself to everybody. Identify who are your trusted, okay? Who are your trusted support system? you need the support system. You are not alone on this journey. If you don't have any familiar, any close person to you that you can trust, reach out to the team. You know, between us, we'll be able to offer you the necessary intervention possible, or at least signpost you to people that can help you. What we want to do is to encourage people that you have a voice. Your experience is valid. You don't need to hide. You don't need to live in shame. You don't need to live in isolation. I know not everybody will be able to come out and share their stories. Different people are on different, at different stages of their recovery. But the key thing is not to live in denial. That is you breaking your silence. It is first to yourself. Don't live in denial, and that will be, in fact, it's a major phase for your entire breakthrough and overall healing. Not being in denial. There is nothing wrong with you. You have not committed any sin. God has not disowned you. God is not against you for living an abusive marriage, okay? Bear in mind that God hates abuse. He hates, and the Bible encourages us, for those of us that are Christians, it encourages us to shun away from all signs and appearance of evil. Domestic abuse is evil because these are intentional abusive behavior that at least one person in the family unit or in an intimate relationship inflicts on the other person. All right, I think, yes, so those are the key things I want to share with us today. And Uju, do we have any updates?
Wow, Feyi, just well done. Thank you so much for the session. A lot of chat, a lot of debate, a lot of conversation going on here. I'll just quickly read one that something that Francesca just added to the comments, and she said, advice to women is to stop clinging to the questions of how could he, and let go of your picture of how it was supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Get self-sufficient as soon as possible. Was one comment here. Thank you, Francesca, for that. I think that's absolutely spot on. Comments from here saying thank you for the talk, very informative and key advice. And some people saying here we'll surely link up at some point. Great session, brilliant talk, Feyi. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If anybody else had something that they wanted to specifically raise or flag or talk or mention or ask Feyi before the session ends, please feel free to.
We've got 2 minutes. I want to encourage everyone, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, even if it's spending extra time under the shower, even if it's spending, taking special care of how you present your food, your bedroom, declutter your space, take care of yourself, go for walks, encourage yourself. If you've got nobody around you, right? If you've got nobody around you that you could trust with your information, of course, apart from reaching out to us, encourage yourself, be intentional about your own recovery. Okay, these things have happened. There is no denying it. All right, you can't deny it. They are part of your reality, but they don't have to have negative impact on you. They don't have to keep controlling the rest of your life. They have happened, right? They are part of your realities, but it's what you do with this reality that matters. Over and above what the abuse is, it's what you do with that reality that matters. And we hope and we're encouraging you to make it work for you in a positive and healthy way. Self-care, self-care, self-care. All right, do any more updates? Yeah.
Thanks so much, very relevant. Someone saying, she's saying, thanks so much, very relevant to my walk at the moment. Geraldine saying, great and filled with relevant facts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Feyi.
everyone. So
Thank
I'll
you,
leave you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you, Auntie Kate. I'll
Well
leave you
done.
to enjoy the rest of your
Definitely. Oh my goodness.
day.
You know, it's been absolutely wonderful today. You know, all the talks are just very emotive for me. It's amazing.
Thank you, Auntie Kate.
Well
Thank
done.
you. So everyone, thank you so much for being actively involved. Thank you for joining us. So we've got a few more sessions going on tomorrow.
Yes, see you all tomorrow evening.
Yes, I want to get the actual date and time, so I'm giving them accurate information. Where is that? Where is that? Bear with me.
Auntie Kate, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 7:30 p.m.
Yes, tomorrow at 7:30. Please come
Yes.
back and join us. Auntie Kate will be talking about coping with domestic violence in pregnancy and its challenges. Because believe it or not, domestic abuse happens in pregnancy, and that puts not only, and abuse in pregnancy affects child's development.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. A lot of abusers actually use pregnancies to trap the victim into the relationship.
Correct.
Because they believe the more children you have, nobody else will find you attractive.
Exactly.
So they keep getting you pregnant. They monitor your cycle.
Yes.
Right? So you don't want to miss this session. Again, we know that not all of these things would apply to all of
everybody,
but we know that there are people, there is always someone that knows someone that knows someone that has either experienced it or going through it.
Yeah.
So please join us again tomorrow at 7:30 with Auntie Kate, and she'll be talking about coping with domestic violence in pregnancy and its challenges. And on Saturday, woohoo, which will be our final day, we can't appreciate all of you enough for coming. You've been coming from Monday. Thank you very much. And we also, of course, recognize that because of work commitments, some people are not able to join. Please watch the catch-up videos. On YouTube. They're all available on Facebook, and I think they're being posted on YouTube now.
YouTube,
so
yeah.
Choose whichever platform is safe for you, and of course, watch it only when it is safe for you to do so. So day 6 is still happening on Saturday. Our very own Iyo Nweke will be talking about building and preparing, building and repairing family and the home.
Yes.
Because you know what? Regardless of the abuse you've experienced, a healthy family relationship is still possible. You
definitely.
Can heal completely. You can be whole regardless of what experience of abuse you've had. So you don't want to miss that session. And it's happening on Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. And it will be hosted by Iyo Nweke. And of course, we expect you to stay with us. You're going to have all of the speakers. Okay, all of the speakers will be coming back from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. I will be here to answer as many questions that you have for us as possible. So sincere appreciation to all of you for your commitment. Yes, Francesca.
Can we just please remind the African and especially South African viewers that there is a 2-hour time difference?
Is that plus or minus?
We are 2 hours ahead of UK.
Okay.
So if it's
right.
2 o'clock
so
in the UK,
7:30 will be 9:30 then.
9:30 here.
Okay.
And then Saturday, if it's 2 o'clock, it will be 4 o'clock in Southern African time.
And if it's Nigeria is 1 hour ahead.
Nigeria is 1 hour, yeah.
Yeah, so be mindful of your time zones. We put the time there as GMT, UK time. If you're in doubt, just ask Google. Google is faithful. Ask Google what the current time is so you can set your time accurately. So I'm going to leave all of you now. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Yes, thank you, Feyi. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you.